GoogleTest announcements live at head. GoogleTest now follows the ABSILE live at head philosophy. We recommend updating to the latest commit in the main branch as often as possible. We do publish occasional semantic versions tagged with $major, minor, patch, e.g. v1.10. Documentation updates. Our documentation is now live on GitHub pages at google.github.io/googletest/. We recommend browsing the documentation on GitHub pages rather than directly in the repository. Release 1.40. Release 1.40 is now available. The 144.x branch requires at least C++14. Continuous integration. We use Google's internal systems for continuous integration. GitHub Actions were added for the convenience of open-source contributors. They are exclusively maintained by the open-source community and not used by the GoogleTest team. Coming soon, we are planning to take a dependency on ABSILE. More documentation improvements are planned. Welcome to GoogleTest, Google's C++ test framework. This repository is a merger of the formerly separate GoogleTest and Google Mock projects. These were so closely related that it makes sense to maintain and release them together. Getting started, see the GoogleTest User's Guide for documentation. We recommend starting with the GoogleTest Primer. More information about building GoogleTest can be found at googletest/readme.md. Features XUnit Test Framework. GoogleTest is based on the XUnit testing framework, a popular architecture for unit testing. Test discovery. GoogleTest automatically discovers and runs your tests, eliminating the need to manually register your tests. Rich set of assertions. GoogleTest provides a variety of assertions, such as equality, inequality, exceptions, and more, making it easy to test your code. User-defined assertions. You can define your own assertions with GoogleTest, making it simple to write tests that are specific to your code. Death tests. GoogleTest supports death tests, which verify that your code exits in a certain way, making it useful for testing error-handling code. Fatal and non-fatal failures. You can specify whether a test failure should be treated as fatal or non-fatal with GoogleTest, allowing tests to continue running even if a failure occurs. Value parameterized tests. GoogleTest supports value parameterized tests, which run multiple times with different input values, making it useful for testing functions that take different inputs. Type parameterized tests. GoogleTest also supports type parameterized tests, which run with different data types, making it useful for testing functions that work with different data types. Various options for running tests. GoogleTest provides many options for running tests, including running individual tests, running tests in a specific order, and running tests in parallel. Supported platforms. GoogleTest follows Google's foundational C++ support policy. See this table for a list of currently supported versions of compilers, platforms, and build tools. Who is using GoogleTest? In addition to many internal projects at Google, GoogleTest is also used by the following notable projects: the Chromium projects, behind the Chrome browser and Chrome OS, the LLVM compiler, protocol buffers, Google's data interchange format, the OpenCV computer vision library. Related open source projects. GTest Runner is a Qt5-based automated test runner and graphical user interface with powerful features for Windows and Linux platforms. GoogleTest UI is a test runner that runs your test binary, allows you to track its progress via a progress bar, and displays a list of test failures. Clicking on one shows failure text. GoogleTest UI is written in C#. GTest Tap Listener is an event listener for GoogleTest that implements the tap protocol for test result output. If your test runner understands tap, you may find it useful. GTest Parallel is a test runner that runs tests from your binary in parallel to provide significant speedup. GoogleTest Adapter is a VS Code extents